Good evening. I hope you had a wonderful day in the Lord. Do you feel blessed tonight? Or are you in somewhat of a famine? Maybe it's a mental famine. A lot of people are suffering from mental health challenges or emotional challenges, even physical. So even in a famine, you still can have God's direction. As a matter of fact, in Genesis 26, it talks about in verse 1 how there was a famine in the land, and the Lord told Isaac to go to a certain place, but not to go to another place. He told him not to go to Egypt, but he told him to go to Gerar, where King Abimelech of the Philistines was hanging out at. And in verse 3, the Lord says, sojourn, go to that land, and I will be with thee. I will bless thee, and I will just do so many things. I will perform the oath that I had with your father, and your seed will be multiplied. And not only his seed, it just turned out that, oh my goodness, his land, it became so fruitful. He was able to sow seed, and his harvest brought forth 100-fold. It was just so blessed. But guess what? When we see that the Lord's hand is on our efforts or on us, what happens a lot of time? That 4-letter ugly E word.
Eager.
That's 5, honey.
Envy.
And we see that Philistines, or King Abimelech's people, in verse 14, started getting jealous. It says he had possession of flocks and herds and great store of servants, and the Philistines started hating on him. That's part of it. When the Lord just blesses us. And why? Because he waxed great. Because they saw in verse 13 that, man, he was like booming. He was like being blessed and just so much multiplication in his life. But that's part of it. In verse 16, you have that, son.
Yeah, read that for me.
And Abimelech said unto Isaac, go from us, get away from us, for thou art much mightier than we.
Yes.
Now, louder, honey.
All right, forgive me. Well, when we looking for like friends or companions to have in life, well, like if we have insight or whatever, and we have wisdom, then we're gonna see that a true friend is somebody who's like supporting us, and not everybody's your friend. So I guess, it's kind of obvious that the king wasn't his friend, and the people of the land weren't his friends either, because they didn't want to see him doing like too well. It's like some people only want to see you do well at a certain point.
To limit.
When you exceed them, then like it's like, okay, what
you got a problem.
Right. Then you got a problem. So you should be around people who support you, even when you surpass them, and you should want to bring them with you, and like so they can do well as well. And that's also like speaking. You don't want to rub things in people's faces when you're doing better than them. Like I'm sure they know, so it doesn't help you just like bragging about it. So be supportive about everybody, and make sure you have people who support you.
Amen. And it said in verse 19, talking about getting along with people, they started naming wells after certain incidences. And you see that all throughout the Bible. Isaac's servants dug into a valley and found there a well of springing water. And they named that well Argument, or Esek, because Isaac's herders were arguing with the Philistines, saying, no, that's mine. No, those are our resources. So they were arguing. And then there was another well that they were quarreling about in verse 21 called Sitnah. And Sitnah means accusation. So you do not want arguments or accusation. But then they found a well in verse 22 where they didn't quarrel over. It was roomy enough, and they named it Rehoboth, roomy. You want to be able to have enough room so that everyone can be blessed. Amen. And that's how they got along. They took an oath, and they said, you know what? You're blessed. We're not going to argue anymore. And the last well that they named was that represented oath. So let the Lord, there's enough blessings for everybody. We have no reason to be jealous, envy, or hating. God's blessings are plentiful. So let's enjoy each one of them. Have a good evening, enjoying the fruit of the Spirit.